Chapter 6. Octavia felt more than a little ridiculous wearing the university-designed saddle. She'd so far resisted the urge to refer to herself as a walking billboard, but only out of the respect for vinyl. The unicorn was very insistent that she wear it for some reason. It wasn't the style that was the problem, for it was quite a cute thing that rode nicely on her flank, but rather the big WMU on the side. Octavia tried not to be as fussy about fashion as her mother had been, but honestly, who wants to wear words on their clothes? The whole point of wearing things was to make a visually engaging statement, and having letters just seemed redundant. Regardless of her true feelings, the cellist maintained a pleasantly unconcerned demeanor as she accompanied Vinyl into an empty classroom. "What exactly will I be doing?" The DJ scratched the back of her head. "Standing still, I guess. Think you're up to it?" "You're hilarious." Oh yeah, that's right. This is like... she's going to model for them. I forgot about that. The first pony other than them to arrive was the teacher, a mare with the pale green coat and gray, distinguished hair. She gave the pair a friendly smile and had decidedly easygoing air about her. "Hello, Vinyl. And you must be the mare we've heard so much about?" "It would appear so." Octavia glanced at Vinyl, wondering what exactly so much entailed. The teacher also possessed a remarkable ability to sense her thoughts. "That was a joke, dear. Vinyl hasn't told us anything about you. I see that you will certainly meet our needs. However, it's been a while since we've practiced on models who actually live up to their title." The cellist smiled and tipped her head gracefully. "You flatter me. I'm just happy to be of assistance." "You remind me of my niece. So polite, that one. Oh, but I'll have to insist that you take that saddle off. We're studying the body, not the clothes." Inwardly sighing of relief, Octavia slipped the saddle off and deposited it on a table. Vinyl's mouth opened as if to interject, but before she could say anything, the rest of the class arrived en masse. The DJ slipped away to a desk far away from the gray mare and began to unpack her equipment. It felt somewhat awkward, standing at the front of the class beside the teacher. For a brief, surreal moment, she thought it was high school once again, and she was being called upon to give a speech for which she had not prepared. Shaking her head to gain freedom from those thoughts, she smirked slightly, unprepared for a speech. Now that was surreal. "All right, class. As I told you last week, we're going to practice drawing correctly proportioned ponies." The teacher raised a hoof towards the cellist. "Assisting us today is the beautiful... I'm sorry. I didn't think I caught your name." "The fault is mine. I didn't introduce myself. My name is Octavia." A few murmurs passed through the class, and most of the stallions sat up straighter, suddenly very keen on paying attention. Vinyl rolled her eyes as Shady followed suit. "Careful, your eyes are going to fall out if you stare any harder," she whispered, earning the satisfaction of seeing him become aware of his behavior. "Hey, I've got no control over my eyes, dude. They go where they want, and right now, they want some of that flank. Know what I'm saying?" He hissed back, grinning madly. "Oh, you have no idea. You're such a perv. And you're such a prude." Vinyl snorted at that. As soon both of them were muffling their laughter. It was a good few minutes before they realized that the class had begun sketching, and they quickly got to work. Octavia looked slightly uncomfortable standing alone now that the teacher had sat down at her desk, yet she managed to remain completely motionless. A more interesting subject Vinyl had never experienced. 3 glowing pencils drew at the same time on her sheet, each at different pressures and angles, carving a monochrome cellist out of reality. Caught in an explosion of light that seemed to permeate and enhance her like sunlight shining upon clouds, her little Octavia seemed more real than the classroom around her. The mare herself noticed that the ponies were slowly turning, one by one, to look back at the DJ, who was feverishly scratching at the paper with several white-hazed pencils. Octavia had never seen Vinyl so completely absorbed in something before. It was truly a new perspective. Eventually, even the teacher ambled on over to her desk and peeked at the work. As much as she hated to interrupt, it was unavoidable. Vinyl, sorry dear, the sketch is supposed to be realistic." The white unicorn frowned and the pencils paused mid-stroke. She picked up the page and held it aloft, comparing the subject with her work. "What are you talking about? It looks exactly like her!" Octavia desperately wanted to charge over and snatch the paper for herself, but she resisted the urge and focused on staying still. "It's a little bit, impressionistic." "What? How?" The teacher leaned down so she couldn't be overheard. "Well, to my eyes, Octavia doesn't seem to be glowing with ethereal light. I think you might be having an artistic version of a, Freudian slip. The cellist saw Vinyl's eyes widen in response to the mayor's whispers, and a dark blush flooded her white cheeks in a most fascinating way. What in Equestria is she embarrassed about? Did she make a mistake? The DJ closed her notepad and began packing up, accompanied by a chorus of disappointed groans as the rest of the class was denied a chance to go over her work. The teacher didn't ask why, nor did she try to stop her. Instead, she returned to the front of the class and drew attention away from Vinyl by discussing how to position cutie marks correctly. Octavia tried to catch the unicorn's eye, but she seemed to look everywhere but her. In moments, she swept out the door, blue hair bobbing. Trapped under the gaze of a dozen students, there was nothing she could do until the class ended. Take note of how her cutie mark is in the center of each flank, and be careful when drawing the treble clef. Those of you who haven't studied music might find it... Oh! Exclaimed the dark brown stallion. Ah! Exclaimed the dark brown stallion who sat beside Vinyl. All attention turned to him, and he quickly stammered an explanation. I just realized what I was doing wrong. A few sniggers was all the social punishment he received for interrupting the teacher, and he quickly returned to staring at the cellist's cutie mark. It was quickly more humiliating than she had expected. Perhaps that was why Vinyl had tried to make her wear the saddle. It covered that area rather well. So many questions. She hoped her DJ friend was up for a very long phone call tonight. Granted, she would be tired. Vinyl had her musical theory class straight after drawing. Well, tomorrow they'd definitely get to chat. Friday was Psych Day, and they would be putting their new tactic into action. After that, Vinyl would have to face the music. Psych patrolled the front of the class, wild red mane and tail bobbing with energy. "Wow!" he exclaimed. A few moments passed as he continued to pace. "Wow!" he said again. "I mean, can you believe it? We're already in week 5. I don't know about you lot, but I feel like we've really bonded over the last few classes, especially our favorite pair." Instantly, all the eyes snapped to both mares, who sat on opposite sides of the class as usual. They didn't even open their mouths, showing no reaction. Psych raised an eyebrow and gave it another shot. "So, how was the movie?" Again, no visible sign they even heard him. Finding no entertainment in silence, the tutor cut his losses. "All right, let's just move on. Now, the next assignment." He launched into a list of what was expected, and the ponies quickly began riding, all thoughts of the two mares forgotten. From across the classroom, Vinyl desperately wanted to wink or smirk at Octavia in celebration of their apparent success, but she knew it could cost them dearly if somebody noticed. For though the majority of the class was focused on riding, one particular unicorn, who happened to have a lyre on her flank, didn't take her eyes off the DJ for a moment. Her left eye was darkened by bruising, giving her quite a terrifying scowl. Interestingly, Bonbon sat at a different table today, and winced every time her left forehoof touched something. With no long-winded arguments to extend the class, it lasted barely another 20 minutes before Psych reluctantly let everybody go. "Sorry, every pony, I guess I started planning these things around their arguments, and now they're clearly conspiring together to disrupt my class." He looked between the two quickly. "No? All right, fine. Same time next week, every pony." Surprisingly, he actually seemed a bit confused by their tactic. As they dispersed, Vinyl took her usual path up the hill back towards the main court. Octavia suppressed the urge to catch up and begin interrogating the DJ. She had waited all day for this. She could wait a few minutes longer. Unfortunately, that insufferable green unicorn was going the same way. With her in the way, there was no way Octavia would be able to speak to Vinyl in private. Lyra seemed intent on not letting the DJ out of her sight. With no other options, the cellist resigned herself to trying a late-night conversation. It irked her that things kept obstructing her righteous questioning, but she kept calm and changed course, heading back to her flat. So help her if Vinyl didn't answer the phone. Calling Vinyl. It was only midnight, but Octavia could not wait any longer. She had never realized just how boring being alone was. It was so quiet. More than once she wished she could hear Vinyl snorting back a laugh, or speaking loudly and giggling between words like she did when she was feeling playful. She'd sometimes wave her hooves around excitedly when ideas occurred to her, or when the cellist confessed she had listened to certain artists. "You're joking, right?" she'd say. Vinyl is saying that. "You're joking, right?" she'd say, the raising of her eyebrows indicating that her eyes were wide behind glasses. "Not in the slightest. I told you I don't listen to much of that dubstep, Octavia would reply. Further enticing shocked reactions from Vinyl. But it's the greatest kind of music ever! Oh my goodness. Hey, hello? Yo, Octavia, you here or what? Snapping out of her gaze, she quickly remembered what she was doing. Oh, hello, Vinyl. Sorry, I was distracted. All good. What's up? For a moment, her mind blanked. What was so important again? There was a muffled crunching from the other end, meaning Vinyl was having a midnight snack. She always ate like a pig and still managed to stay at the perfect weight. Maybe she should ask her how she does it. How are you not fat? What? Octavia reddened and mentally kicked herself. I'm sorry, ignore that. I keep getting distracted tonight. After a moment, during which Vinyl was probably weighing whether to investigate further, the crunching resumed. No worries, I guess. What I did want to talk about was the drawing class. The crunching slowed slightly. Yeah? The DJ's voice sounded cautious. I was wondering why you ran out halfway through the lesson. I was done. Done? Yeah, done. Finished the sketch and the dude let me go. Oh, that's it. She just finished early? But that didn't explain her avoidance of the cellist, although, did she really avoid her? Or am I just so needy that I require attention at all times? Yeah, the Earth Pony was slightly startled until she realized the DJ could not, in fact, read minds, and was instead trying to continue the conversation. I suppose, with that out of the way, what are you doing tomorrow? I got a whole heap of stuff lined up this weekend. I don't think we'll have time to chill until Monday. Octavia couldn't help but feel slightly hurt, but she did her best to squash the feeling. That's okay. However, we both have 2 lectures on Monday. There's no way we'll have time to talk and do what we normally do, she trailed off. Hey, this is totally off topic, but did you know that lectures aren't compulsory? They actually record them so students can listen to them later. I know that, yes, but considering I live on campus, I don't really have an excuse to miss them. Vinyl chuckled. Glad to hear that. So by the time your second lecture ends, it'll be like midday, right? The cellist wasn't sure how any of this was relevant. Yes, that's correct. And your first lecture starts at 8:30? Yes. What do you do during the break between lectures? I'm not sure where you're going with this, but usually I'll get something to eat and study in the library. Now she was really confused. Uh-huh. All right, that works out awesomely. I promise you, Octavia, we'll find some time to chill on Monday. Vinyl giggled a little bit, but seemed to try and control herself. You're being very strange tonight. Have you been drinking? What? No! But that does give me an idea. Sorry, babe, I gotta go. Later. With a click, Octavia was alone again. No doubt Vinyl was off to a bar to get extremely drunk for no discernible reason. That was one activity that they would never share. Hiding behind her age might work now, but that would change in a few weeks' time. Then, well, she'd cross that bridge when she came to it. It would be tough. Wait. Did Vinyl just call me babe? Octavia almost squealed. My first nickname! Alright, so that was Chapter 6. Moving on to Chapter 7. These chapters are gradually getting longer and longer, having more and more words. What are we at? Actually, we're only at 14 minutes, so maybe it wasn't as long as the other ones. I'm just crazy. Alright, so here we are at Chapter 7. Of all the places she wanted to be on a Sunday night, this was not in the top 10. Stumbling half-drunk down a dark Manhattan street, leaning on Shady Oaks for support. This wasn't even in the top 50. Who was Shady Oaks? Was Shady Oaks the guy that was her in the art class? I think that's who that was. Didn't know you were such a lightweight, chuckled Shady, sliding a hoof around the DJ's neck to keep her upright. You were pumping drinks into me, dude. Buck off, she replied, the grumpy drunk. The 2 ponies continued their awkward shuffle down the gum-encrusted sidewalk. Ew. Gum-encrusted. That's a very descriptive word. Slowly, the dark stallion let his hoof drift along Vinyl's back until it came to rest upon her flank. Ever so softly, he began to trace little circles on her coat. "What are you doing?" The unicorn shoved him away, but stumbled and tripped without the support. He laughed and helped her up. "Come on, let's get you home." "Where are we going again?" "Back to my place, like you asked." She frowned. "I don't remember asking that." "Well, you did, dude." Shady put his hoof around her neck again and pulled her forward a few steps. "Whoa there, easy. I don't know what you think is happening, but it ain't happening," she said, trying to sound as serious as possible through the haze that clouded her mind. The stallion paused in his attempts to assist her. "Are you serious?" Yeah. "So, all those bits I blew on drinks. For nothing?" Vinyl's drunken brain felt absurdly guilty as she placed a hoof on his shoulder, though that may have been for support as much as sympathy. "Sorry, Shades. When you said drinking buddy, I thought you meant, like, an actual buddy." The stallion slumped visibly. "You're a damn tease, Vinyl." "No, I'm not," he snorted. "Hanging off me all night, pretty much grinding on me in the dance pit, doing tequila shots off my back? Nah, you're a saint." "Did I really do all that?" "More or less." "Crap, I'm sorry. I get a little friendly after a few drinks." "Whatever. Reckon you can find your way home from here?" She looked around the tall, black buildings on the featureless road. "Sure. No worries." Shady shook free of her comforting hoof and started trotting away without another word. Wow. Shady Oak sounds like a douchebag. Left on her lonesome, the warmth in her veins slowly chilled in the icy night air. As pretty as Manhattan was during the day, it looked downright creepy at night. Sure, there were plenty of street lamps, but they seemed so suffocated and suppressed by the cold blackness that they provided little comfort. Sudden, crackling tendrils of panic curled around her spine. "I think I changed my mind. Shady?" Vinyl turned to look at the way her friend had gone, and only saw his tail vanishing around a street corner. "Shady!" she croaked. A night full of shouting was affecting her voice at the worst possible time. She tried to gallop after him, but only made it a few steps before falling over. The world swam before her. "Stop it. I just want to get home." But her head was heavy, and it felt as though the pavement was the only thing stopping her from dropping below the world. It was not a good feeling, but she had endured worse. Granted, those times she hadn't been lying in the road. There comes a time in every drunk's night when they have to accept that they may not make it home. She took some deep breaths to try and force her mind to work. "I can't get home on my own. Need help. Somebody who can take care of me." Screwing her eyes shut in concentration, the unicorn hovered her mobile from out of its pouch. Calling Octavia. As the ringing began, she let the phone rest on the side of her head, releasing it from her magical grasp. "Honestly, Vinyl, this is late, even by our standard." She yawned. "Sorry. Are you okay? You sound a bit hoarse." "Yeah, I'm fine. You?" What was she calling about again? "Aside from being awoken by this call, I'm quite all right." "Yeah, you are. You're always all right," Vinyl grinned, scratching her cheek against the ground. "Well, I suppose. Are you sure you're okay?" Somehow the DJ could hear Octavia frowning in concern. "Hey, I just want to say, 'cause I'll never say it to your face, you're pretty cool, and I reckon we should chill together more, 'cause, yeah, you're awesome." "Oh, sweet Celestia, have you been drinking ever since our phone call on Friday?" She ignored the words entirely. No, just tonight, but, listen to me. And I'm being totally open and stuff. I've been having these dreams, right? And they're, full of those clef things, like the one on your cutie mark, and sometimes I'll see you in my dreams, too, and we'll hang out, and we'll go walking together, and... "Vinyl," interrupted the cellist, who sounded more amused than irritated. "You should get some sleep. Drunken phone calls are most unbecoming." "I can't. I don't know where I am, but shush, this is really important. When I think about you, "You don't know where you are?" exclaimed Octavia. "What do you mean? Are you just wandering the streets?" Yeah, pretty much. That's not safe at all. Do you see anywhere familiar? I'll come and get you. That'd be awesome. Nothing familiar, but I think the street I'm on is called Blueberry Road. Though I'm also pretty hungry, so that could just be... Hey, can you bring some blueberries? Hold on. I have a map of Manhattan somewhere around here. And some whipped cream. Throw in some chocolate shavings, too. Blueberry Road is adjacent to the main clubbing district. Did you go to any clubs? Vinyl snorted. Philly, please. I went to all the clubs. Of course you did. Well, I think I know roughly where you are. Just stay there until I find you, okay? The cellist sounded so serious that she managed to cut through the nigh-delirious fog clouding the White Pony's world. Don't worry. I'm going nowhere fast. As soon as the conversation ended, Octavia shoved her phone in a small, one-sided saddlebag and... Okay, now hold on. How does Octavia speak with her phone and also use it if she's an Earth Pony? Wait. Is Octavia an Earth Pony? I can't remember. She's a unicorn, right? I mean, how else would she be able to play the cello if she's... Never mind. I'm being stupid. Through the small one-sided saddlebag and bolted out of her room into the hall. The lamps were bright and made her eyes hurt, but she persevered regardless. The cellist burst into the stairwell with a crash, leaping over the first set, skidding and bypassing the second via rail slide. Her mane was a mess, her coat was ruffled, and she had forgotten her bow tie, but all of those things took a backseat in her mind. A friend in need. She had read about the responsibilities of friends and best friends forever. In this situation, she was bound by the rules of friendship to help Vinyl get home safely. Didn't matter if the unicorn brought this on herself, or if Octavia had 2 lectures later today. Those were the rules, and this mare always followed them. This was, however, the first time she had ever needed to remember that particular set of rules. It was all well and good to know the code of conduct among advanced acquaintances, but if she didn't have any, they weren't much use. Well, not anymore. With determination in her veins, Octavia charged down the hall and through the final door into the night. It was cold, very cold, but she didn't stop running. Her teeth were chattering, so she clenched them to remain focused. The student village was on campus, hidden away in a far corner. The point was to be close enough to justify living there to get a class easier, yet far enough that students could maintain their own lifestyles without being under the scrutiny of the university's faculty. A long, winding path through an unnatural forest led her to the main court. For once, the sheer enormity of the place didn't excite her. Rather, she felt exhausted just by looking at all the ground she had to cover. Thoughts of a carriage crossed her mind. She latched onto it hungrily. There was no way she could run all the way downtown. A hired transport was the clear solution. Not only would it save her legs, but the driver would know exactly where Blueberry Road was. It was a great disappointment, then, to see the empty ranks outside the university gates, where usually there would be a couple of carriages eager for your directions. Now, there was a single wet newspaper flapping in the breeze. She took off at a steady trot, widely deciding to conserve energy. After all, she might need to drag a certain unicorn all the way back. There were few other ponies out this late, and the ones she saw were promptly avoided. 1,000 tutor-taught, parent-approved lessons in safety came rushing back. Don't make eye contact if some pony looks unprincipled. Cross the street to avoid them if possible. Remember, it's better to look rude than to get mugged. And for the love of Celestia, Octavia, don't go into any dark alleys. Thankfully, the club district wasn't exactly hidden away. It was entirely possible to reach it using only the main roads. No alleys required. A small comfort in a big, cold city, yet she was grateful for it nonetheless. It was barely 15 minutes later, and she was panting. Sure, she'd maintained a good exercise regime and required to keep herself healthy, but that was just a jog around campus and some stretching routines, nothing that actively increased her endurance. Slowly but surely, her hooves began to get sore from slapping against the tough and occasionally uneven pavement. Vinyl. The pain shot through each hoof when it struck the ground, becoming incentive to pick up that hoof and push it forward. Each inhalation of crisp night air brought with it more energy, and she narrowed her eyes in conviction. The cellist had a goal, and there was simply no time for physical limitations. Rounding a corner, Octavia spotted the very sign that had eluded her. Blueberry Road. Grinning, she forgot all about the ache in her hooves and started down the street with renewed enthusiasm. No wonder she wasn't certain where she was. This looks like every other street. Black silhouettes came into focus further down the road, and her heart jumped into her throat. Her comfy little dorm was a long way from here. She slowed her pace, keeping an eye on the group. It was 2 colts, probably high school kids who had snuck out. They didn't seem very good-natured, but it was the thing they crowded around that made her heart speed up. A white unicorn with an electric blue mane. "Hey!" she screamed. "What do you think you're doing?" They looked up, slightly startled, which was a good sign. It meant they weren't sure who had the power in this encounter, which in turn meant Octavia could take that power. "Get away from her before I eviscerate you!" She picked up the pace, hoping it would frighten them into making a snap decision of fleeing. They backed up, but one of them still had a bit of defiance. "Or what?" he shouted, voice cracking and betraying his fear. "I know pilates! There won't be anything left of you for your parents to identify!" She had never shouted so loudly and forcefully in her life, nor had she ever been so confident in a lie. The final threat was enough to tip the tables in her favor. The 2 colts sprinted away as she reached Vinyl. As the cellist carefully looked over the unconscious mare, she felt her panic slowly abate. The DJ was unharmed, aside from a couple of light scrapes, most likely from tripping. The 2 colts were probably just poking a passed-out drunk, as disgusting little ponies are wont to do. Vinyl's signature purple glasses lay beside her head, and Octavia realized with a start that this was the first time she had seen her friend without them. Now, if only she was conscious. "Vinyl, wake up! Come on! You can't sleep here!" she whispered insistently, gently poking her white cheeks. She certainly has very soft skin. Finally, a response. Just let me die," groaned the unicorn without even opening her eyes. "Absolutely not! I came all the way here from my dorm to get you, so you better damn well get up and be grateful." Her eyes cracked open ever so slightly, but in the dim street lights, Octavia wasn't certain if they were even looking at her. "Huh? Octavia?" Well, that answered that. "Yes, it's me. You called and I came. Now hurry up and move your flank." She couldn't help but be a little annoyed at the slow reaction time. Vinyl reached out with a hoof, patting the ground blindly until she found her shades. Fumbling a bit, she slid them on and raised her head slightly. "Hey." The cellist hoped her flat look would be suitable reply. Right. I'll get up." With several curses, 3 of which Octavia had never even heard of, she hauled herself upright and stood swaying upon the sidewalk. Her mane was even more disheveled than usual, and her expression was one of hungover agony. Needless to say, the cellist snuffed out a laugh. "Oh, you look ridiculous." "I think if I try to talk too much, I might puke." The earth pony took a step back. "Can you walk on your own?" she asked. "I can try, but if I fall over again, I'm going back to sleep." Pushing through the mental image of being covered in vomit, Octavia walked up beside Vinyl and put a hoof around her neck. "Come on, then. Let's get you out of here." They began the awkward drunk herder shuffle. Never in a million years did the dedicated student think she, of all ponies, would need to do it. Truly, it was humbling to see that the lives of other, slightly less reserved ponies were also susceptible to hardships, albeit self-inflicted ones. At least, that was what she used to occupy her mind during the long, painful walk through the streets of Manhattan. As streets blurred together and her hooves went numb, Octavia felt her energy drain away. Now that the initial rush was over and Vinyl was safe, the very late hour was beginning to have an adverse effect on her. Or rather, the very early hour, as the lightening horizon suggested. "Oh, Celestia, I haven't stayed up all night since... ever," she mumbled, now holding on to Vinyl for support as much as the other way around. "You get used to it." "I certainly hope not. At this pace, I'll never get home in time to get any sleep." Vinyl snorted. "Just crash at my place. We're almost there anyway." I'm not sure. Maybe I can just catch a carriage now that it's morning." "Octavia, chill. You're staying at my place tonight. Today. Whatever." "Well, if you're sure it would be okay." "It's fine. Now come on. It's just around the corner, and I think my hangover is going to get a lot worse if I don't sleep soon." For once, the use of that vague phrase was extremely literal. A fact for which the cellist was infinitely grateful. Vinyl's flat was indeed just around the corner, and up an elevator, and down a corridor. It wasn't the nicest looking building, nor was it host to the most refined of company, but the Earth Pony held her tongue, knowing that, hey, Octavia is an Earth Pony! How does she use a phone? You can't hold a phone in your mouth and also talk. How does she use a phone? How does she take a phone out of her saddlebag and put buttons in it with those giant hooves? She can't use phones! This story is flawed. She held her tongue, knowing that such criticism would bring absolutely no good whatsoever. Inside Vinyl's apartment, she could definitely see why the unicorn wanted to leave. It was extremely small, with everything in one room, except the bathroom, of course. Cardboard boxes packed tight with belongings took up most of the floor. I don't blame you for not unpacking. I would also hate the idea that I could live here for any length of time. The words slipped out before she could think. Then she slapped a hoof to her lips. Luckily, the exhausted mare didn't seem to hear. She slipped free of Octavia's supporting hoof and stumbled forward, falling onto the bed. Where should I sleep? Asked the cellist, feeling very awkward about the obvious answer. As expected, a white hoof patted the mattress lazily. Can you move over a bit? A twitch that almost looked like a shrug passed over the unicorn's body. She was checking out of reality. Next stop, dreamland. Octavia climbed tentatively onto the bed and tried to maneuver herself so that she didn't accidentally touch the DJ. It was hopeless. There was simply no way to avoid it. Wincing and moving very slowly, she lay down and held her breath as their bellies were pressed together. As their bellies were pressed together. Vinyl was fast asleep, her breathing deep and slow. Every time her chest expanded, it pushed gently against the cellist. Warmth radiated from the blue-maned mare, and Octavia caught herself before she snuggled closer. I have to stay alert. This is my first sleepover. I can't afford to make a fool of myself. But as her body realized that the unicorn was finally over and it was time to rest, she found her ability to regulate movements to be severely lacking. The cellist pressed her face into the white cloud, smiling at the comforting heat. It was safe there, nice and secure, relaxing and cozy. There was no need to think. Her eyes fluttered shut, and she happily slipped into a doze. And as the pair slept, unintentionally entwined, but with complaints from neither side, the sun broke through the early clouds and lit the city with its merry glow. And, there you go. That's chapter 7, and next time we'll be reading chapter 8. And it looks like things are about to start getting a little bit steamy from here on out, but we got these 21 chapters in this thing, so we got quite a few more to go. See what happens. See what happens with that, with the teacher and all that. If you guys want to support me, I have a Patreon up. If you donate to my Patreon, you can give me suggestions of what I should read on my channel, and I'll take them into consideration, and I'll read them. Also, if you guys are interested in hearing me read things live, you can visit the Discord channel. The links to both the Patreon and the Discord will be in the description. And every time I'm about to read something, I'll make a notification in the Discord, and you can hear me read things live, so you can hear all the bloopers and hear me go, oh shit, I fucked that word up. So, if that's something you're interested in, check it out. Anyways, until next time, Ace Ka, yeah.